Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Demas, the executive editor here at Lincoln Square.
And I'm Sam Osterhout.
He is our executive producer here at Lincoln Square.
Did I forget to say that? Sorry.
And welcome to the weekly assignment, where Sam and I talk to you about what's coming up on Lincoln Square, the latest headlines, and what we can all do to fight back against authoritarianism. And joining us today is our good friend, Jeff Timmer, senior advisor with the Lincoln Project. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. This is always one of my favorite ways to start the week, because this is actually pretty easy when you look at the week ahead. You know what's going to happen already. All of us are Nostradamus. There's going to be corruption. There's going to be stupidity. There's going to be incompetence. There's going to be controversy. There's going to be racism. There's going to be misogyny. This is all really easy.
And then what happens tomorrow?
Same thing.
All right.
We wake up to the Sonny and Cher song, just like Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, and do it all over again.
That's why we're all so tired.
It's only been 11 years, guys.
Yeah.
11 years.
Well, Jeff and I actually saw each other over the weekend. It was not under the best circumstances. We were at a funeral for a good friend of ours, former Republican Congressman Joe Schwartz, who passed away. Joe was one of these larger than life figures. He only served one term in Congress, but he had many jobs. He was a state senator. He was the mayor of Battle Creek. He was also a surgeon, served in Vietnam, former CIA agent. One of these people who lived more in his life than, most people you'll ever meet. And he was a proud moderate. He got wiped away in a primary in 2006, 20 years ago. That was a race that I covered as a journalist. And, one of my first interviews with him during that campaign was he was telling me how one of his formative memories was listening to the bells being run for D-Day when he was 6 years old. And I thought it was appropriate that was the day of the service for him. His parents were both veterans. He volunteered. He was in medical school. He volunteered for Vietnam, which was fairly unusual. And service to your country it was really in his DNA. It was in his family's DNA. He also, was just all about his community in the small city of Battle Creek. And, I was thinking a lot, Jeff, because, as we're sitting there at the service in his hometown parish, and they were talking so much about, the way he had served his country and his community. And that really used to be something that I feel like Republicans valued. And, going back to when, Bill Clinton was up against George H.W. Bush in 1992, he was, rightly criticized as a draft dodger. And even George W. Bush, he joined the National Guard during Vietnam because it used to be taken for granted that you would have to have military service if you were going to run for the highest office in the land. And of course, we had John McCain, who was a war hero. Joe Schwartz actually was one of the people involved in trying to get him out of the Hanoi Hilton. And later chaired his campaign in Michigan in 2000. So we're just so far away from that now, Jeff, where, we have Trump, who's a proud draft dodger. He criticizes the military. He criticized John McCain, said, I like people who don't get captured. He's wearing MAGA merch when dead soldiers are coming back from Iran. And, to celebrate his birthday last year, he did a military parade for himself. And this year we've got the UFC cage match where he's destroyed the White House to build that. So Jeff, you are, I feel like, the best person to talk about this because you've been on the inside. You were the executive director of the Michigan Republican Party. Let's talk about how we got from the days of George H.W. Bush and Joe Schwartz to the party of Donald Trump today, because that does not happen overnight.
No, I can give you the quick summary. It's the Mike Douglas show fired Roger Ailes, who joined the Nixon campaign. Fast forward, God told Pat Robertson to run for president in 1987 and 1988. Then the Kansas City Royals fired Rush Limbaugh, who went back into talk radio, and then cable news and Newt Gingrich and the internet, and here we are. Does that explain everything?
Wow.
No, I want to. We're talking about Joe Schwartz, a one-term congressman who most of America doesn't know, but he's one of the most remarkable men and lived one of the most remarkable lives of anybody that you don't know. He is a larger than life kind of political figure, not just in Michigan, but the kind that could be the kind of poster child, central casting for a statesman anywhere in the country. You're right. He volunteered to serve in Vietnam as a medical student, or I think he had already completed medical school, was doing his residency, and volunteered to serve in the Navy. And after serving in the Navy, he was recruited to serve in the CIA, where he was in North Vietnam, in Laos, and Cambodia. And as his job, he was part of a unit that was trying to find and liberate American POWs and MIAs that were behind enemy lines. And then he came back and was a doctor, a physician, a family physician, and mayor. And he was a towering figure in Lansing at a time when there was another towering figure, John Engler, who was the three-term governor. They were often political opponents, even though they were also very good friends. And what was so remarkable about a funeral that we witnessed on Saturday was there were two eulogies given: the former Republican governor, John Engler, and the current governor, Gretchen Whitmer. You're not going to see, the way our politics has evolved over the last decade or so, you're not going to see that kind of bipartisan respect that we saw on Saturday. And it's such a study in contrast. Joe Schwartz was a Republican he was often an opponent of mine. I ran two races against him, beat him in a gubernatorial primary when he was a proud moderate. He was a pro-choice Republican. He was like the last one in Michigan. One of the last in the nation. Yeah. And he then, when he ran for Congress in an open seat in 2004, there were 7 or 8 candidates, all current or former legislators, and the son of the retiring congressman who I worked with against Joe Schwartz. There were a whole host of conservative candidates and one moderate, and Joe won with like 24% of the vote. And in 2006, when he lost, Tim Walberg, who has now been a member of Congress for 20 years, a conservative, Joe, just a couple of months before the primary, there was a vote on the Protect Marriage Act, sponsored by Republicans in Congress, to effectively keep a ban on gay marriage. And Joe voted against that because it was wrong. He knew, he was advised by all his people that, hey, if you vote for this, you're going to lose your primary. And he said, I don't care. I'm going to do what's right. And it is such a study in contrast between today's Republicans. The simple act of just saying what Trump has said, what Trump has done is wrong. I'm not going to support that. I'm going to uphold my constitutional oath to war powers, to tariffs, to all these kinds of things that the Republicans today, the feckless, nutless Republicans who have just abdicated all of their power and reason for being in Washington. It was such a study in contrast, and I sat there behind a couple of pews behind my old friend Mike Rogers, who had the potential to be everything that Joe Schwartz was and isn't. Mike, at his kind of penultimate moment, decided, I'm going to join MAGA because it's politically expedient. Joe would have slapped the living shit out of Mike Rogers sitting there if he could. I hope Mike Rogers is haunted by the spirit of Joe Schwartz.
And Mike Rogers is running for U.S. Senate this year. He also ran in 2024. He's been endorsed by Donald Trump. But they both started in similar places. I mean, Mike served in the FBI He was never as moderate as Joe, but, was considered to be pretty reasonable and, kind of made to run statewide as opposed to a lot of really conservative Republicans. But his evolution has always been fascinating to me because he left Congress in 2014, so pre-Trump, went on, did some stuff in radio, built a really nice house down in Florida, seemed like he had everything going for him, and then decides to jump back in and to become a Trumpian figure because he wanted that Senate seat that I guess he'd had his eye on for his entire career and decided that this was the way to do it, even though he could have preserved, I think, a really good legacy if he had just, not gone, over to the dark side. And, Jeff, I think about a lot of the folks that you and I both know in Michigan politics. And long before even Donald Trump came on the scene, it was a rite of passage if you were in Republican politics to bash Joe Schwartz, because he was a turncoat. He would endorse some Democrats, not all of them. He endorsed Rick Snyder, two-term Republican governor. It was not like a party line thing for him. Till the day he died, he would not call himself a Democrat. He was an independent. But, a lot of people who, frankly, were not qualified to carry Joe Schwartz as a jock would just dismiss him as being totally irrelevant. This guy who had given his life to his country. And, when you see that kind of character weakness, to me, it's not a surprise that all these guys joined MAGA because they never really had that kind of moral center to begin with. They just kind of faked it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, the best analogy I can use is the first Austin Powers movie when he is unfrozen and he goes in and takes that, like 5-minute pee, and he comes out, and the first thing he sees is Russian generals and everybody else standing behind him. And he goes, "Whoa, looks like things have changed since I've been gone. Hey, comrades, I love communism." That's like Mike Rogers woke up and said, "Whoa, a new team is, I love MAGA. Hey, I'm unfrozen." And even the peeing analogy, Mike pissed his integrity and his legacy away when he decided to do this.
I wonder also, we talked so much about what happened to the Republican Party, especially with the Lincoln Project. And I mean, most of you have written books about what happened to to multiple books even. But I wonder if it feels like, that generation, the generation that is my parents' generation, they were born in the 40s and maybe early 50s. Their idea of service it feels like it was for the sake of service, right? It was for the sake of community, for the sake of neighbors and building something. And all policy disagreements sprang out of a disagreement between the best way to serve the community. Right. And I feel like this new breed, they're not subverting the purpose, the motivation, the deliverable of service has changed. Does that make sense? Yeah.
There's no overarching guiding principle. The principle used to be country first. We are Americans. We support Constitution. We support freedom and liberty and the American ideal and the quest to be a more perfect union, recognizing that we have a flawed past and present. And that has been jettisoned where it is partisanship first. You are loyalty to the tribe above all else. And that is, it's a symptom that's manifesting in both parties. It is metastasized in the Republican Party. It has killed what made the Republican Party a stable, sane, center-right faction that counterbalanced the sane, stable center-right or center-left faction. That's what our politics demands. When it's played between the 35-yard lines where most American voters live their lives, not just their political life, but their lives, they're not just friends with people who agree with everything that they believe in politically. You have a I think the tax rate should be X. You think the tax rate should be Y. I hate you. That's nonsense, right? But we are dealing with such larger. We're not dealing with policy disagreements or normal political disagreements. We're dealing with fundamental disagreements with reality, with right and wrong, with the rule of law. We have one political party who supports it and one that doesn't. It's just that simple. One who upholds the Constitution and one who uses it as an artifice, a thinly veiled cloth to wrap themselves in because it's politically expedient. And that's the Republican Party. And it is a bastardization of everything the Republican Party stood for. You can argue, and I've done this for now a good decade since I became an independent, not a Democrat, left the Republican Party. You can argue about the issues, the policies. That's what normal people do, but we don't have that luxury right now. This isn't the politics today. These elections are not about, who has the best vision for, education policy or national security policy or whatever it is. This is all about who can exert power. It's a zero-sum game. Either I win or I lose. And if I lose, there is no future. That the Republicans have made every election an existential event where the election day doesn't even, it's a speed bump in who wins the elections. You see it right now with the language coming out from Steve Hilton and everybody in California. Spencer Pratt needs to fight on. There's no fight. The fight ended when the polls closed. That's
right.
it. That's
You
it.
lost.
Now it's math. It's math. You don't fight math. If you fight the counting of ballots, you are an authoritarian. You are anti-democracy. You are trying to stop the people's expression, deny people their franchise. You might not like the way California does it. I can't say that I do. It seems, Pony Express, whatever. It takes too long. But it's the law. They're not doing anything but counting votes. There is no fight. There is no continuing campaign. But the Republicans writ large think that there is. And that's the way they fight every election.
The Republicans' posts about that over the weekend were jarring, and they get exactly to your point that they are so siloed and so bubbled and so misinformed with process and purpose that they were like, this. I didn't think Pratt would be the reason we start a revolution, but here we are, folks.
I mean,
really,
it's just insane. Really? California is as blue as Mississippi is red. And for Democrats to sit there and be like, it's all rigged, there should have been 2 top vote getters in Mississippi, people would be like, you're high, who cares? Yeah. But in MAGA, I mean, this is an article of faith.
Yeah. It's they are just so insane. Just if what I want to happen doesn't happen, then it is rigged, it is stolen. If my warped sense of reality, or not even warped, is what I hoped for. Let's just say I hoped that if a voter hoped that Steve Hilton would win, he didn't. That's what happens. That's what happened in elections since elections began. Somebody wins, somebody loses. You go, it sucks to lose an election. It really sucks when you want somebody to win. If you believe in somebody, even if you believe in somebody is insane, dangerously insane as Steve Hilton or Spencer Pratt, it sucks to lose. Right. But you lose. It doesn't mean that you were robbed. It was stolen from you. You were cheated. The Republicans have become the biggest bunch of whiny ass bitches that I have ever encountered. They are the weakest, soft, fragile. Look at Trump yesterday. I mean, the minute he's confronted with any pushback on his delusional, gibbering rantings that are getting increasingly more stupid. I mean, imagine how dumb. Most people don't know there's a B in dumb, and he said that now probably 50 times on camera. I mean, that is 25th Amendment territory every time this gibbering fool says that.
We have some video.
And the minute he's confronted, he walks. He according to Nancy Mace's standard, physically assaults Kristen Welker by putting his hand on her. I mean, that's as he stumbles, as his tottering, failing manatee frame dressed in an ill-fitting suit stands up and kind of bloviates off the stage, now you've got the whole, MAGA sphere on Twitter. I mean, the Elon Musk fueled bot accounts with all their American flag Johnny MAGAs and all that shit, talking about, Kristen Welker being so rude, the fake news, and we need to shut them down. They're all in lockstep chorus, trying to shut down the free press. I mean, the White House has an official's enemies list on the White House website with people like Rick Wilson and Liam Neeson, the not the actor, but the guy from Twitter, Twitter, Liam Neeson,
Liam Neeson,
and others on. I mean, it is Joseph Goebbels would go, "Oh my God, you people are over the top. I mean, you are just you are making a true propagandist look like a ham-handed ass clown," and that's what the White House is doing.
Goebbels is like, "Enough, guys, enough." Okay. We have a little bit of that video. Can we play just a tiny bit?
An election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I got that? Because you have no credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk about
your elections in this country. We're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked network.
Here's my thing. How do you watch that and not feel embarrassed?
I'm embarrassed for both of them. Like, as a journalist, watching her plead and the part that we did in your show where she's like, "Please, we traveled all this way to Wisconsin." I mean, if a reporter who worked for me behaved that way, I would be like, "This is clearly not your line of work. Okay, go work for a PR firm, because you cannot be pleading with people to talk with you." In this case, you're like, "Please lie to me some more, Mr. President, please."
At some point, a journalist, why have they not just said, "Don't say that to me. You can't call me stupid." All right, that's the thing.
Yeah, look at the incident I think it was last week. God, I mean, it might have been a year ago. It could have been yesterday. I can't ever remember. There's so much of it when he went after Caitlin Collins in the White House for not smiling with hate in her eyes. And what every reporter there should have done was say, they shouldn't have just gone on and asked her questions like it didn't happen. They should have said, "You need to answer her question. Why did you think it was okay to talk to her like that? Why does she need to smile?" They are to blame. They treat him and give him latitude that no other human they would give to no other human, and it's unconscionable. It's exhausting to them. I understand that, but they need to do their job, and they are just they have completely the reporters who cover him have as a mass failed. We have failed to uphold Donald Trump to the same standards as anybody else, certainly as Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden couldn't get away with anything. Anything whatsoever.
Him at the podium, and he was the president. But Donald Trump, it's like, sir, can you please please, can you answer my question, sir?
Yeah. I mean, if he's going to sit there and say the election was stolen, there's all this evidence, it's been there for 6 years, we've never shown it, it's just, I mean, the lunacy. Then they need to say, we're not going to cover anything else but this until you show us what you're talking about. He can't. They need to shut this down. They have been fueling, they provide the oxygen to the lunacy by never confronting the lunacy. Every time he comes out and says, "We're close to a deal with Iran now," he's been saying that for 100 days. Every story should come with how many times he's said the exact same thing. Yeah. And it has mattered not at all. It is the rantings of a lunatic. His proclamations on what's happening in the Straits of Hormuz carry as much weight as mine. they do,
I trust yours
or anybody
more,
else's.
To be fair.
You at least know that it's closed.
Well, and Timmer, you're actually operating from objective facts. You're reading articles. He's just saying shit. Yeah. He's lying.
I've closed down the Straits of Mackinac, folks. I'm announcing it here. They are closed. I have blockaded the Straits of Mackinac, and you must pay tribute to me. You must pay tribute to me if you want to move freight on the Great Lakes.
Can we still get to Door County? Is that going to happen?
We can talk. Everything's transactional.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Oh man! And before we let you go, Jeff, I'm sure you saw Pete Hegseth clearly not understanding the history of D-Day on purpose, where all of a sudden it was we're the baddies moment. I think we've got a little bit of that speech. That was jarring.
Much of the West, in some places, in some quarters, and in some capitals, grew comfortable. We forgot that freedom is not free. We forgot that peace is not wished into being. It is bought with purpose, with honor, and with strength. The men who landed on these beaches knew this. The question we ask ourselves is, do we? It's past time we remember what they knew. Their legacy demands far more than quiet reflection. It requires our active vigilance. Sadly, today, different European beaches are stormed by different dangerous ideologies. Beaches in Spain, in Italy, in Greece, and Bulgaria, boats and men arrive. When will European capitals do something about that invasion? Or is
just a little history lesson. It was the Allies. It was us. We were the ones who stormed the beaches against the Nazis.
Yeah. I mean, you got Hegseth there putting himself inside a German cement pillbox, above Omaha Beach on the cliffs. It's a very, I guess, natural analogy for somebody like him and the MAGAs right. to, I guess, associate themselves mentally more with the Germans than the Allies, but it's still a jarring juxtaposition. And when you look at that ground, those cemeteries, the speeches before him, for now 82 years or since the war ended, 80 years, the Democrats, Republicans who've come there to talk about the shared sacrifice. There was no sorting those. Picture the opening scenes of Saving Private Ryan, and put yourself like, how could I ever get off those troop carriers that are landing on the beach? They weren't sorted into, we are Republicans in this troop carrier, we are Democrats in this one. They were Americans, and that's something that Donald Trump and his Republican Party just do not understand.
No, that's right. And I think this generation lacks a central purpose, a cause, right? And the only cause now that they've rallied around is Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, we won the Cold War more than 30 years ago. Donald Trump is surrendering that to Putin and Xi, and we've surrendering the all that we fought for in the Pax Americana. If you can, the fact that we haven't had a major global war since World War II is because of American military might, but more important, it's the American leadership in the world that has organized the free countries of the world, free economies, to build the post-war, now nearly 100 years in the future, nearing a century of amazing achievement in human. The human history of the world, and that's because of America. And Donald Trump squanders it.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. It's always great to have you here.
Well, thank you. I look forward to being back.
We'd love to have you back. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Man, it's the Hegseth stuff gets me because and the Trump stuff, it's so dumb. It's just dumb. And it's you scratch the surface of their reasoning and their logic, and it is it just blows away like dust.
Yeah.
But it takes such root in the minds and sort of hearts of so many men and women in this country. And it is, I wrote about it a little bit today in Winners and Losers, the sort of the bigger picture. This is a cultural and social shift that I think we have to be really, really careful about.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the sort of worship of inexperience and inexpertise. Makes me crazy.
Yeah. Well, this week we have a lot going on at Lincoln Square. So why don't we talk a little bit about that before we go? Let's see. We've got George Conway on our newest show, 6 Questions with Stephen Beschloss. That will be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That should be a great conversation. George, of course, is a Lincoln Project alum, former Republican, and is now running for Congress as a Democrat in New York.
Yeah, and Stephen's new show is so good because it is so rarely do you get depth and concision in one little package. It is so clean and tight. And the questions he asks, he goes through, he's like, first question, and then they wrap that. I was, when we first were dreaming up this show, it was like, man, this show is going to take 90 minutes. And with Mary Trump last week, which is a great show. If you haven't seen it yet, you should go back and look. It was 27 minutes. And you got all the things. It's such a wonderful show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great one. And we also have Frank Figluzzi, former FBI assistant director. He's on with us twice a week. Today he'll be on with Benjamin Creamer. He's also on Wednesdays at the usual time that you're used to seeing him. So I just feel like having both of them on Lincoln Square is just great, because when we conceived of Lincoln Square, we had this idea of like, well, we have some of the best campaign veterans in the business with, Rick Wilson and Stuart Stevens and Joe Trippi, but we want to expand that, and we want that kind of expertise everywhere. And so we've got Bobby Jones, who's a retired Navy commander, and we've got Frank and Stephen Beschloss, who of course is a longtime journalist and filmmaker. And so I really appreciate the depth that they're able to bring to the interviews that they do for us.
I agree. It's one of the things that really excites me about this job and about Lincoln Square and the whole platform we're building. We have, Michael Fanone and Maya May, Michael having been, served not just in top level law enforcement, but on the streets, undercover, like in all of the places. That is an expertise that you don't really see anywhere else. Those are the conversations I think that are really important. Yeah,
absolutely. And on their show, The Revolution, Maya May and Mike Fanone, they'll have Rachel Bidikofer this week. And that's great because we are just in the throes of primary season. And so she can really break down all the polling and Democrats' weaknesses, Republicans' weaknesses. So that will be a great show.
Yeah, she's like a beautiful mind, kind of action over there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that should be fun to watch. We of course have the monthly conversation that Stuart Stevens has with Simon Rosenberg, a longtime Democratic strategist. That will be tomorrow. So looking forward to hearing their take on everything going on between Trump's antics at the White House and, of course, all of the critical primaries going on.
Yeah, that conversation is always great. It's always surprising because I'm like, what are they going to talk about? But they always, it's always new. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's such a good conversation. People really watch that show. That is a well-watched show.
Yeah, absolutely. On my show, First Draft, I'll have David Neer from the Down Ballot, and we'll have much more election news for you there. What I really love about the Down Ballot is that they literally cover the races below the top of the ticket. You're not just your state races, but they even get into local races too. And, as we all know, that's where some of the most critical decisions get made in your community. And unfortunately for so many of us, we've seen like our local newspaper or our local TV station just get cut to ribbons. And so it's great that we have people like David that are keeping an eye on even what's going on in smaller communities across this country.
Yeah, I mean, since we don't get too much David Pepper anymore, since he's running for lieutenant governor, who was our kind of down ballot, expert, state house expert. This is a great conversation. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And then our good friend Brian Datesman from The Intellectualist, on his show, he will be having John Harwood, who is a former CNN reporter and now in Zateo. That should be a really fascinating conversation because John has just been covering politics and world affairs for decades.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Brian's another super in-depth and interesting, like his questions always sort of weave in really surprising places. If you haven't watched that show, you really ought to. That'll be Thursday, I think, 10 a.m.
Yeah, History of the Present.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Great. And keep an eye on our weekly calendar for, any breaking news and updates that we have, since, our roster of shows just keeps growing.
Yeah, keeps us busy.
Yep. Well, before we let you go, our weekly assignment for this week, in honor of Donald Trump's 80th birthday, I think we should give him the president that he most deserves, and that would be his impeachment. It's a dance he's gone through before, so let's do it a third time. But in all seriousness, it doesn't. I know you might feel like, well, I've called my member of Congress, I've called my senator about this before, but he gives us new reasons literally every day why he should be impeached. I mean, what he has done with the massive corruption, with the reflecting pool, with building the UFC cage on the White House lawn, with destroying the entire East Wing for a drone port and, his new ballroom. I mean, the corruption is unmatched. His war in Iran is completely illegal. We're well past the 100 days, the grace period. So, let's all do our part and talk with our elected officials. I'm sure you probably have reasons why he should be impeached that we haven't even mentioned.
Yeah, well, this is a question I was going to ask. We can get into this next week, but if you were sitting down with Donald Trump, it's one of the questions, it could be, are you concerned about jail? Not, do you think this was illegal? Because it was, right? We can skip over all of that minutia, all of that process kind of question stuff, and just say, does jail concern you? Are you afraid of going to jail for the crimes that you've committed? Like, what would you ask him? Yeah,
that's a great question. Maybe throw on some of the AI slop that he loves so much with him in an orange jumpsuit. What do you think about this visual?
You look fit.
Yeah.
3 squares a day, great.
Oh, Sam, it's going to be quite a week. It has to be, because we're leading up to this cage match. But looking forward to talking with you some more this week about all the craziness.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.